Right now, 39 days to the election, and some already throwing in the towel. We won't do that here, but we will ask Mitt's problems, and there are many. Is it the message or is it the messenger? And next, politics from the pulpit. Pastors across the country next week will endorse candidates during their sermons, putting their tax-exempt status in jeopardy. They're doing it intentionally because they say they shouldn't be restricted come Sunday from saying who they think would be better for America. So the question we ask tonight is, do politics and religion really mix? Plus, should terminally ill patients be allowed to decide how and when they die? New Jersey could soon become the third state in America to enact a death with dignity law. We'll get into that. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Friday evening, September 28th. Now, 5 weeks from this coming Tuesday, we finally vote. I know we've been talking about this election for years already, but we can see the finish line here. You can put it another way. We are now just 39 days from the 2012 presidential election here, and what and where are we with these now under 40 days and counting? The president certainly in the lead. Every poll says so, and it seems that lead is growing. Now, it is also potentially threatened to seriously impact the battle for control of the Senate in addition to the Oval Office. And for the latest numbers here, the trends and the concerns of down-ticket races, let's bring in Andrew, our senior political correspondent.
A lot to get to, Rich. Here's where the race is right now. Not much movement on the overall national picture, but enough internal movement that the swing states are rapidly becoming the swung states. Latest poll averages, the president's lead continues to increase. Today it is up over 4%. Little day-to-day change in the electoral map. Obama still with a 265 to 191 lead there. But notice how little gray, the gray representing swing states, notice how little gray there is now left on this map. The candidates and the campaigns have certainly noticed, both men in Ohio and Virginia this week as they hopscotch from swing state to swing state. But the more the nominees seem to focus on the swing states, the fewer swing states there seem to be, as more and more states that go on that map from gray to blue, or blue to gray rather. Ohio, long thought to be the key swing state, now shaded blue. Obama up more than 5 points in the poll averages, and there's more. Virginia, Obama now up more than 4. Florida, where the average Obama lead is now more than 3 points. Even states that had once given GOP loyalists hope are now shifting blue, like Wisconsin, where Governor Scott Walker survived that nationally watched recall this year. It's now a solid blue. Poll averages have Obama up nearly 8. Colorado still a toss-up for many experts. Obama up nearly 3. Same story in Nevada, where the president is up nearly 4 points. And finally, North Carolina, long thought to be Mitt Romney's strongest swing state placement, the president up there by an average of more than 1 point. How bad is the map right now for the GOP? Last night we told you about Republican super PAC money moving from the presidential race into the Senate and congressional races. Tonight there's a growing sense that Mitt Romney's lackluster numbers in the presidential race may be hurting Republican Senate efforts as well. Senate and House races, especially in a presidential election year, don't happen in a vacuum. The top of the ticket does have an impact on other races, and the better your presidential candidate does, the better your House and Senate candidates will likely do as well, which makes the Virginia Senate race so interesting. President Obama's got a 3.7 lead in the state, almost the exact same lead that Senate nominee Tim Kaine has there, which means if Romney could close the gap in Virginia, Kaine's lead would likely slip as well, giving the GOP a better shot at winning the Senate. Could be a similar story in Nevada. President Obama's up nearly 4 points there. The Republican Dean Heller, he's up just 2. If Romney slips any further, Heller could fall as well. Romney, a similar story in Florida. Ben Nelson continues to outperform the president as well. Now, the Romney effect may have had or cost the GOP shots at 2 seats that many thought the GOP could win back. In Ohio, Senator Sherrod Brown is outpolling President Obama. If Romney closed the gap, Brown would likely have more to worry about, but today this is looking like a safer seat for the Democrats as well. Of course, not every race follows these rules. Take Missouri, for example, where the president trails Mitt Romney by 7. The GOP Senate candidate there is Todd Akin, he of the legitimate rape comments a few weeks ago. And this week, Akin called his opponent, Senator Claire McCaskill, well, he called her out for not being as, quote, ladylike as she was in her campaign 6 years ago. Those kinds of local factors working against the GOP in Missouri and not working for the GOP enough in a pair of New England races. In Massachusetts, President Obama leads Romney by 23 points. Still, Elizabeth Warren is in trouble, but she is still ahead. You can also look at Connecticut, where there's a similar story. The president's up 14 in Connecticut. Maybe if that lead was a little smaller, Chris Murphy would not be leading Linda McMahon in the latest poll averages. The president not letting up. Last night we played you this Obama ad slamming Romney for those hidden camera comments about the 47%.
There are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what, who are depend upon government, who believe that they are victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe that they're entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it. And they will vote for this president no matter what. And so my job is not to worry about those people. I'll never convince them that they should take personal responsibility and care for their lives.
Now, when we look back at this race, that 47% tape and issue may be the one that finally cost Mitt Romney the White House. The problem is for Mitt, not that he said it, or was it that he was caught on tape saying it? Remember, in the hours and days after it was released, lots of conservatives came out supporting that message. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley said, quote, it's an opportunity for him to emphasize the economic differences and the philosophies between the two parties. Rush Limbaugh, quote, this could be the opportunity for Romney and for that campaign to finally take the gloves off and take the fear off and just start explaining conservatism. Eric Erickson said the trouble for the left and the media is that most Americans agree with Mitt Romney. Even Chris Christie got involved applauding the message, saying Mitt Romney believes that every American has got to have skin in the game. He doesn't want what the president wants. And while Romney's certainly been criticized this campaign for losing messaging battles and generally running a bad campaign, when the postmortem to this election is written, there may be legitimate room to ask, what was the GOP's biggest problem in 2012? Was it the message or the messenger? Rich?
All right, Andrew, thank you. Let's bring in the table and get into that very question. And with the debates upcoming, this is going to have to be something that the Romney camp's got to settle on, and I would say stick to whatever their answer is. Jeanne Zaino joins us, the Dean, and the Professor of Political Science from Iona College, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. He's got an interview with Curtis Sliwa coming up this hour as well. Anthony Figliola, Vice President at Empire Government Strategies, and you already heard from Andrew. All right. I will start with the brains of beauty at this table. Jeannie, listen, I've heard Charles Krauthammer at the Wall Street Journal tore a new one into Mitt today, saying that they've run such a small campaign. It needs to be about big ideas. But then I hear that, wait, if this guy just had a pulse, if he just had some relevancy to the regular American, some connectivity here, he'd be doing okay with such a vulnerable president. Is it the message? Or is it the messenger? Why is he in so much trouble 39 days out?
Well, first of all, I think it's a little premature to be talking about trouble is this much. We still have 2 unemployment numbers to come out, 3 debates plus a vice presidential debate. So there is still some time in a world in crisis.
Well, he's got to decide before
Wednesday's
debate.
I agree with
What's
you.
What's his message going to be?
I agree with you. He should have used the convention. They should have used the convention better than they did. And I think the problem here is the message. I think the problem is that Mitt Romney has got to reach a minimum kind of likability factor, and then he's got to say, these are the 4 things I'm going to do.
Do you think there's time for him to become likable?
No, I don't think he has to be likable. I think he's got to be minimally likable. Listen, you're hiring somebody to run the country. You're not marrying them. You do need them to be minimally likable, that's true, but you also need them to say what they're going to do. And when he lost the election, if he loses it, I don't agree it was the time that Andrew pointed out. I think it's when Bill Clinton got up there at the Democratic convention and said simply he did the best job anybody could. When you take the economic issue off the table, Obama's going to win.
And
so that, I think, is where if
Romney
loses, that's where he loses.
Where I find this to be, nothing's over till it's over. We agreed on that. But every metric you look at, if people trust this president more on the economy than Mitt Romney, what's he selling? Okay? Because people generally like Obama. They think he can relate more to him. Every poll says that one, too. Foreign policy, for crying out loud, is now a Democratic net positive over the Republican candidate. When's the last time we saw that? So my question is, you counsel. He's got to, in these debates, either figure out he's going to be minimally likable or he's going to say his policies, he'll articulate it for the first time and stick to it so he doesn't change it for the second and third debate. What's he got to do? Or can he do it?
You're asking me a very difficult question. What Mr. Romney has to do, he's got to throw the Hail Mary. I agree with the Dean. It's not over until it's over. So all of this speculation and
all right, so tell me what he does, though.
Okay, so what he does, I told you last night, and you guys disagree with me. I would bring up in this first debate Reverend Wright. I really would. That's how bad it is for Mr. Romney. The problem is the messenger. People don't like him. He's like a deer in headlights. And no matter, he had a good product, and he was the product. I'm not Obama. It would have worked. But he stepped on the message so many times, it's just...
You know, Anthony, is it that there's no core to it, so when he says something, people don't believe it? Or is it that he said so many different things on the same subject, they don't know what to believe?
I think, the dean had said that, about framing the debate.
dean.
I'm calling you the dean.
I'm
trying to become friends with you. I'm courting you. The problem is that even in the Republican primaries, the Republicans, Newt Gingrich and others, had defined him as a vulture capitalist. The key component that he had in this race was that it's a down economy, and he has an opportunity to turn it around. He's a successful businessman. And it's turned into that's a horrible thing. And what he should have done after he got the nomination, when things sort of became a little bit quiet, was come right out of the gates and say, you know what, I'm not going to feel sorry, or be sorry, I should say, for being so successful. It's my success that's going to carry this country.
See, I agree with Andrew in that, there's a lot of things we can pull apart in a postmortem. We're not there yet, obviously. But that 47% video, I think, crystallized for a lot of people. That's his view of America. There's have and have-nots. There's 53% here and 47% there. And if you're writing off the 47%, whether it was inartfully spoken or in the minds of many, you're not doing yourself any political favors. Did he have to craft and accept a message to get through the primaries that was an unwinnable message to sell, even in as divided America as it is today? Can he win, or could anybody have won, with a message that was basically defined for you to come out of those primaries, where not one hand went up when they asked if they'd be, $10 in cuts for $1, and say, I mean, could anybody win with that kind of, shackles on you, I think, politically? Well,
Mitt Romney, the problem that he has is that when he goes and criticizes Obama, and then he never has the "but I'm going to change that," and he never gives any substance, any meat to it. Neither does Obama, but the good thing about Obama is he's an incumbent, so he has the edge already. And Romney has been incredibly flat. He's not getting people excited. You're dealing with a very charismatic politician in Obama. What Romney has to do at this point, and I think we talked about this in other conversations, the first debate, he has to come out swinging. I don't know if that's going to help him at all, candidly, at this point. I know it's 40 days left, but he has to come out swinging. He has to talk about all of the things that Obama promised. I promised I was going to reduce the debt. National debt increased by $6 trillion.
Andrew, though, this thing, as we've learned, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And over a marathon, you're exposed warts and all. And I'm not so sure that even if he was a more likable guy, more relatable guy, and he wasn't buying car elevators, and he didn't have a horse in dressage in the Olympics, and all the things that he couldn't, get out of his own way on, I'm still not sure, after a year-long campaign, that the public would have said, I don't like what he's selling.
You know what? There was nobody booing in that video of the 47%. People liked what he was saying. People cheered People cheered when he picked Paul Ryan, because the Ryan plan, that's back to basics. That's where we got to go as a country. But that's a lot of cutting, and a lot of cutting of social services. You go back to the primary when people were getting booed for saying relatively sympathetic or compassionate things. The Republican Party's positions, I submit, would have put anybody too far to the right of the mainstream of the American public. So whether it was Mitt Romney, who's not doing a particularly good job selling it, or whether it was Earl Scheib, who does a great job selling car paint, it doesn't matter who's doing the selling. I don't think the American people would have bought the product.
There is a message, though, that they would buy. There is a message of tax reform, reforming the tax code. There is a message of smaller government that they would buy. The problem is, you talk to people, they don't know what he's selling, because he's not saying, I'm going to do these 4 things. He's got to get out and say, I'm going to do these 4 things. And I'll tell you, you're right, Obama isn't saying what he's going to do, but people on his behalf are. Bill Clinton did. That speech was a policy speech, and it sold very well, and right, it should have.
But maybe, Mitt Romney's if there was a policy speech of Mitt Romney, and then the masses heard what it would mean for them, it might not be as palatable, even if you had a better spokesperson with it. Listen, he could do a million things better. He'd pick up a couple points now. He'd be closer if he just got out of his own way, I grant you. I don't know, though. All right, we're going to jump to a break. But when we come back, we're going to stay with politics, but move to the pulpit. Pastors across the country next week will endorse candidates essentially challenging the federal government to go after them for mixing politics and religion. We'll talk about if this is a good or a bad thing after this.